The Matrix series of movies is without a doubt one of the most popular and mind-blowing of all time. Not only was it a box office monster, but it also went on to inspire a whole generation of sci-fi movies in the process. A movie that had tons of thrill, tremendous levels of action, and of course, deep secrets. However, today we are going to present to you all of the secrets behind the scenes of the last movie of the trilogy. Yes, that's right, The Matrix Revolutions. Before we start though, don't skip a minute of this video because coming up at number 9 is something that was supposed to be kept top secret from the fans. Alright, now that you're all pumped up, let's start. Number 1, the S&M Club is a real place. We all remember the scene in the famous S&M Club, right? Well, that scene was the one where Keanu Reeves, Neo, goes to meet Trinity, who is played by Kerry Moss. While it may look like this scene was shot on a real set, in reality, it actually wasn't. It actually took place in Sydney in a club called Hellfire Club. The directors asked the club members to dress up as they do regularly, and then the shot was taken. This created an atmosphere that was ultimately looking pretty realistic and gave true club-like vibes. Number 2, Hugo Weaving had undergone surgery before the shooting period. The Matrix is widely known for its mind-blowing action scenes. None of them have ever failed to amaze us. To make the scene look as ultra-realistic as possible, actors were told that they themselves would take part in the fight scenes and stunt doubles would not be used. Now, you're not going to believe that actual martial artist trainers were hired to personally train the actors for a whole 4 months. However, the training was intense. And what I mean by intense, I mean it literally would tire your whole body out in an hour. Moreover, it had risks of injury too. And this is exactly what happened to our Agent Smith, aka Hugo Weaving. He'd hurt his hip to a level that required hip surgery. Grateful enough though, he recovered extremely quickly and finished his parts of filming as soon as he got back on the set. Number 3, Warner Brothers didn't want the Wachowskis to direct. The Matrix series is undoubtedly one of the best series of movies that was ever directed by the Wachowskis. However, let's not forget the early struggles that the movie had. It was almost cancelled at a point. Part of the reason was that Warner Brothers did not want to hire the Wachowskis, and they were heavily inexperienced. They were pretty unknown and were pretty unqualified as directors. However, this single job turned their whole lives around. Not only did they win the trust of Warner Brothers, but The Matrix was a global hit. Number 4, the Switch was meant to be gender fluid. The character Switch, played by Belinda, was actually meant to be gender fluid in the original script. This idea, however, got trashed when the final script was ready. Initially, the directors planned that Switch would be a male character in the real world, but his gender would change to female whilst in The Matrix. The reason for this was that the Wachowskis themselves were having struggles with their gender identity. In the end, though, they cancelled it and made Switch to be female in both worlds. Number 5, the clothing was not expensive at all. The Matrix series has one of the most iconic sets of costumes. The black suits, leather jackets, and of course the amazing shades, all of it legendary. The outfits in The Matrix represent an important part of pop culture. However, as we all know, the film had a really tight budget. They had so much to spend on the action scenes that they actually fell short for costumes. The filmmakers then decided to use cheap materials for most of the clothing. A good example would be how Trinity's outfit was actually made out of a type of plastic called PVC. This shows how it doesn't really matter how much you spend on clothing. If executed well, a movie can become a great success regardless. Number 6, it got sued. Well, almost. The Matrix series has always been in the middle of philosophical and religious debates, and due to this, it has always had confrontations with quite a lot of legal issues. The most prominent of which took place in 2013. When Thomas Althouse filed a lawsuit. He claimed that Warner Brothers and the Wachowskis stole the screenplay for his film, The Immortals. This created quite a big fuss on social media. In the end, however, the judge favored Warner Brothers as the claim could not be backed with much evidence. Number 7, Kerry Moss hid an injury to not be recast. Hugo Weaving was not the only one who faced injuries in The Matrix. It is indeed a very physically demanding movie that consists of hundreds of crazy stunts. As I mentioned before, the crew had to learn actual martial arts that took months for them to master properly. One day when Anne was training for her infamous scene when Trinity does her scorpion kick, she twisted her ankles. The injury was pretty serious, however, she was really afraid to lose the position of the lead female to other actresses, and therefore kept quiet about the whole situation. Number 8. The cast had to study philosophy and neuroscience. If you were amazed by how the cast had to learn literal martial arts, then hold on to your seats because you're going to be absolutely shocked to know that this was not the only thing that they had to learn. The cast had to literally study philosophy and neuroscience. Yes, you heard that right. As we all know, the movie itself revolved a lot around these two topics, and in order for the cast to truly understand the script, they had to have the knowledge backing it up. To make this possible, the Wachowskis suggested and made the crew members read books and provide the materials to understand the scripts properly. This made the dialogues more natural, as the cast knew what they were talking about. Crazy, right? Number 9. Keanu Reeves' ledge walk. As we all know, Keanu Reeves is passionate and devoted to his work, and his refusal to use stunt doubles is no secret to the fans. He loves what he does, and what it does is absolutely fascinating. Anyone who's seen the Matrix series knows that the ledge walk scene is legendary, right? Well, you're going to be absolutely surprised to know that not only did Keanu do that scene himself, but he was literally risking his life for that one scene. How? Well, in that scene, he didn't use any cables. Yes, you heard that right. No support whatsoever. He literally walked out onto a window ledge by himself, holding onto a bulky Nokia phone. He was hundreds of feet above the floor. Truly terrifying, right? Yet Keanu made it seem like it was absolutely nothing and did the scene flawlessly. Man, sometimes I wonder, how brave is that guy? Number 10. The film forced New South Wales to change its laws. Ever heard of a state changing its laws just for a single film? Well, that's literally what happened with The Matrix and New South Wales. How? Well, remember that scene where Neo rains bullets down from a helicopter to take out the agents? That scene was pretty amazing, but it created quite a few issues as it literally broke some air traffic laws. The violation was so severe that the film almost had to cancel production. Fortunately enough, the producers had contacted the authorities and requested them to alter some of the laws. This allowed the film to continue shooting. Imagine if the helicopter rescue scene didn't happen due to this. That would be super depressing for the producers. But oh well, the worst did not happen. Number 11. Keanu Reeves gave most of his salary to the crew. The Matrix is easily one of the highest grossing films during its run, selling over $720 million worldwide in the box office. It comes as no surprise that most of the crew were paid quite a lot of cash. I mean, why shouldn't they be? After all, it's probably one of the hardest movies to take part in. Keanu Reeves portraying Neo, of course, earns the most amount of the whole crew. There is no doubt that Keanu is one of the generous celebrities to ever exist. However, he never fails to amaze us with his kindness, and the world saw another example of this when he decided to share most of his earnings with the crew itself. Number 12. The highway scene. The famous highway chase scene from The Matrix, where the bad guys fight the good guys and a vehicle crashing occurs. Well, who doesn't remember all of that? It may come as a surprise to many, but the highway you saw is not a highway in real life. In fact, it was 1.5 miles of asphalt constructed just for that scene itself. Number 13. Sets from Dark City were used. Last but not least, The Matrix is often compared with another cyber-themed movie, Dark City, which came out in 1998. Apparently, Dark City was also shot in Australia. Some of its scenes bear a striking similarity to those from The Matrix. That's because many of the scenes and sets from Dark City were intact, and thus were reused in the making of The Matrix. Wow, that was quite a list. It's crazy how much goes on behind the scenes. Making a movie is no joke. It takes a crazy amount of effort from all the crew members, especially if it's a demanding film like The Matrix. Now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more interesting content like this, and we'll catch you in the next one.